Welcome, friends. Thank you for joining us today. I am so excited to introduce you to a very special guest, James Kennedy. And I met James a few weeks ago. Yeah. Let's just say doing an outdoor adventure. And I think the best way that I can describe him is he's truly the embodiment of somebody who not only loves the outdoors and appreciates the outdoors, but is like a true advocate. And it might be a little bit hard to tell, but he is meeting with us today from his tiny house in the mountains where he lives with his beautiful wife and two children. And he has quite the resume. He's an emergency first responder. He's an NCAA coach. He's a personal trainer, and he's a professional rock climbing instructor. Did I miss anything?
Yeah, we don't want that big of a list. Yeah, we'll keep it at that.
So pretty impressive. And I'm excited because today we're going to talk about a topic that I have spoken about in the past about letting go. And we're going to take a deeper dive into this topic and talk about like what it really means. Actually, James, I was thinking it would be a good idea to also talk a little bit about what actually is letting go. I know you're going to share some wonderful examples. We're going to talk about what it means to take a leap of faith. So this is going to be a very exciting podcast. So tune in. And as always, we're going to start by taking our 3 conscious breaths. Yes. So when you're ready, let's take an inhale, filling belly, ribs, chest. Exhale, sweet release, let it go. Chest, ribs, and belly. Again, inhale, feeling the breath enter the body as it fills your belly, your ribs, your chest. Sweet release, let it go. Chest, ribs, and belly. And one more time, deep breath in, filling belly, ribs, chest. On the exhalation, let everything go. The breath, the thoughts, anything that's happened. So I'd love to start, James, by having you tell us a little bit about who you are, what your purpose is in this world, anything else that you want to share before we kind of dive into the conversation that you think would be important.
Um, I I really I've always tried to steer myself a certain way, or I thought I was doing something, purposefully, but it's really been like things have just happened, and this is where I found myself, and I've always been happy along the way. But now looking in hindsight, it's like apparent all of these things have kind of been building. So I grew up in normal suburbia. I had my backyard connected with a couple other neighbors. We all had sheds and lawnmower. Like it was like total suburbia. But we would always go on adventures. My mom at one point managed a ranch out in New Mexico with a few hundred head of cattle. So there was always that folklore like floating around. And we'd go every summer out to New Mexico for a number of weeks. And we'd either be in a shed or in a tent or in a little casita. And it was like just this normal like vacation adventure. Sometimes we go to the beach, sometimes we go to the desert. And I didn't realize all along that, when I would come back home, I wouldn't like come back and just be normal suburbia. I would like still be owning that wildlife type of feel. And my parents kept that alive. Like our house was covered in Native American pottery, and we didn't go to like a conventional doctor ever. It was a chiropractor or a homeopathic healer. So we were always kind of taught this, like you have this innate ability to heal yourself. So I just was like, I didn't know everybody else had antibiotics, or I did hear about it and I was just like, yeah, whatever. I don't know what, but they're like, yeah, you have to take this. And we never did. So I don't know, like in my adult life, then I realized I was like, wait, everybody else kind of had not that same type of life. So then when I'd be talking to adults as a personal trainer and I'd have just like these different point of views, they would just be like, no, but you have to do it this way. This is, and I was like, just, that's the momentum that everything's been following. It's like, you don't have to do it that way. And, they'd get a little mad sometimes, but I would just be like, just because you've been doing it your same way and you're 56 and I'm 22 as like just coming out of college. I was like, I'm not trying to say I'm right. I'm just saying like, I'm not wrong. I'm like, I feel healthy. My family's healthy. We're not, we are blessed genetically maybe that we're not on pills or we don't need those things, but I can't help that I can't help but think that all the like things that we did didn't help that. And us staying away from the doctor, you know, if we broke a bone, that's another story. But, you know, the common cold was fought off by soup and
Hmm.
bone broth and kombucha and, you know, honey, you know.
Mhm.
So I just was on that path forever. And then I found myself really getting into that field. And now I'm, you know, I work at a wellness center and I take people in the woods and we break up hemlock needles and we take them in to try to get the fighting sides to improve our immune system. And I'm not like, this isn't a hibbity dibbity thing. This is like real woods medicine that is a thing now. So luckily there were some scientists doing the hard labor along the way so that I can be like, no, this is real stuff. And now I'm super blessed that I get to do it, you know, every
Mhm.
day.
I love it. It's like you guys were already doing it before it became like a thing. It was just kind of like how you were raised, it sounds like, and what your parents,
Yeah.
how your parents wanted to raise you. And it seems like you're now also doing that in your life with the way you're choosing to live and how you're engaging with the world. So that's awesome. And I'd love to know a little bit more about what really gets you excited right now about your work. Like, what is it that really lights you up when you wake up in the morning?
I feel like in the past I did a lot of convincing. Like if it was we had a very successful personal training years where we were having people lose a lot of weight. It was like we really had to convince them, and they were really like making that hard sacrifice and swallowing the bad thing to make the other thing happen, you know? And like I didn't want to be a salesman, and I wasn't a salesman at all. And I didn't like selling it, and it was expensive training, but we would have results, and I would always go based on like this math shows that you're weighing less or your dress size is less. That's what we wanted. And then they'd be like, all right, how about the next dress size? And there was just like feeding this non-stopping thing. And now, as soon as we go out in the woods, or as soon as we kind of give permission to just be yourself exactly as you are in that present moment, like there's no goal. You're already there. And it's so this super rewarding thing for me because I'm not having to convince anybody. I just set the stage. We have an experience together. I kind of make it a safe, sacred space. And then I become myself and everyone else becomes their self and everybody shares. And it's like this safe place. And it's easy. And I tell my boss, I thank my boss all the time for helping giving me some of these skills. I have a lot of mentors that have helped me along the way. And I'm saying that, you know, when I do my job right, it's easy. If I don't skip any of these steps and I really kind of set the stage and I do it right, it unfolds naturally and I don't have to do like hard work. And then when I do skip some of those steps, then I'm really like trying to convince or rein it in and it doesn't feel the same. You know what I mean? So that's
Yes.
kind of what's really getting me jazzed up is like, I'm not thinking, ooh, I got to go to work. I'm like, ooh, I get to go to work and I get to try these new things and I get to like be a part of this bigger experience. And then my cup is like overflowing on the way home. Like you
Oh,
can't imagine coming home and me and my wife sharing our stories. It's like, it takes a long time to,
yeah. I bet. That's one of the things that I totally appreciated when I met you a few weeks ago was that I felt like I was able to be so vulnerable with you. And I felt really safe in your presence. And I also felt like while you were coaching me to take that big jump, um, that you were also allowing me to be with what I was experiencing. And I think that's like a real gift to be able to give people the space to be who they are. And also, though, encourage them, right? So it's not like letting them off the hook, but it's like, okay, you can choose not to jump 50 feet and you can choose not to let your arms go when you're flying through the air. But how about what if you actually try to open yourself a little bit and
yeah,
feel the freedom? And that's where you helped me get to. So I thank you for that.
I
And
let you off the hook and we walked for a
you
little
did.
while and I let you get all the way to the vehicle. We even had the door of the vehicle open and you're telling me these things leading over the like the hood of the vehicle. And I was like, turn right back around and we shut the door and you were like, yes, you just needed like that one straw to break the camel's back. But you were like, it was perfect. But I was like,
Yeah,
we don't have to. And we were just walking away
I
and
know.
you're like, this opportunity is about to end. I'm not missing out on this. So
Yeah.
that was
So,
all you. That
well,
really was.
it was the co-creation. So I appreciate that because I was determined to do the jump, and as you know, I was terrified and shaking. So speaking of that leap of faith, you held the sacred space and the safe space, and that really helped me be able to do it. So I'd love if you wouldn't mind sharing a little bit about, and part of that, just to back up for a second, is I told you that day I had recorded the podcast Letting Go. So how ironic that here I am, right, recording this podcast, and now I'm all of a sudden in the experience of like, oh my gosh, I'm in the middle of the woods and I'm doing this jump. So can you talk a little bit about in your life when you've had that experience of letting go and taking that leap of faith? And maybe even before you do that, just talk about like, what is letting go? Like what, like just to set up the conversation, like how would you explain letting go to, someone who really is like, what do you mean? Does that mean I don't care? Does that mean, I think there's a little bit of confusion about the meaning of it.
Yeah, I remember that moment vividly when you filled me in on your, like, we had talked and conversed, but I didn't know everything about you. And then you filled me in on, you were like, whew, man, this is really a big deal because this week's all about letting go. And then I was like, I didn't know that, like, in your life that this week was letting go. The previous week was like making happiness appear, and the week in the future is going to be like hang out with me. So that was funny that I was like, hold on, what's going on? You're like, well, I have this podcast. So then we started talking about that, and I realized, I was like, oh my goodness. So for me, it's really like when I learned about acceptance, and the phrase of like, acceptance isn't coming to like the thing. Like, acceptance is really just allowing it to be exactly as it is, kind of like the mindfulness definition of like allowing things to be without judgment in the present moment. And that's the kind of thing for me. Like, letting go isn't releasing it and having it disappear. Letting go is like letting go of that need to try and steer it or try and make anything happen. And that's really it for me. And we do this all the time. If we go into the woods, we'll kind of see it. We'll see a stream, and we'll talk about how like the force of the stream is pushing you. And if you just sat in that stream, or if you were on a float and you allowed yourself to go, you would move miles without any effort. As soon as you dug your feet into the mud, you'd start feeling that actual huge power of the natural gravity of things taking you downstream. And then if you, God forbid, fought and tried to fight upstream, you would realize this like power you're really steering against. So we have no control. Like, we just have to admit that we don't have any control. Anything we think we have control. Look, there goes a cat.
Hi,
Anything
Katie.
we think we have
Perfect.
control over, we don't. And we're just going to be wasting effort. So I have plenty of energy, and I didn't want to waste any of my energy on things that were out of my control. So, I've been taught the serenity prayer by my mom for years. I've always heard that, like, accept the things you can't change the things you can, have the wisdom of know which ones to choose. And like, those little parables that she's pulled from all these different things to give me through all the years, have been these mantras that have really helped me. And I heard them for so long, they were just like known truths to me. And I was like, oh yeah, I get that. And I can see that. And if I get stuck in my adult brain, all I need is a little reminder of like, you're not making this up, and mom didn't make this up. Thousands, millions, tons of people have that human experience. And this is a very simple phrase to kind of let you revisit that like view of everything's out of my control. Some things are, but I'm not going to be sweating the small stuff. Like, I'm not going to let all of that energy go into that. I just need to let go. I need to accept things as they are. And then you realize you were wasting a lot of energy steering something that wasn't even connected,
Yes. Oh, I love
That's letting
everything
go for me.
you said. Yeah, thank you. And I love that you started it with acceptance, because that's one of the kind of themes that continue to show up in this podcast, is that whether we're an entrepreneur and we're trying to pivot, or we're going through, whatever other transitions, that sometimes we are holding on so tight because we don't want to accept that things are changing, right? And some of us have to go through the trauma and go through the pain in order to have it all kind of fall away. So I think that this reminder and reminding listeners that when we do accept, as you have shared, there's energy that gets freed up. So instead of the energy of resisting, right? Like,
Yep.
when I was terrified and I was like, James, I'm fucking terrified. I'm terrified. And I was like, okay, like, and you're like, make a sound, like scream, like do something. And I was like, and I was like, oh my gosh, it feels so good. Like, I'm accepting, I'm not pretending that I'm not scared. I'm freaking scared.
Yeah.
And then it was like, all of a sudden this energy came, and of acceptance. I'm like, okay, if you're going to do it, you're going to be uncomfortable. So just do it. So I'd love for you to share a little bit, if you want, about an experience, and maybe it's when you made the transition to the way you're living, or anything else, where you literally had to let go and take that leap of faith. And, were there obstacles, or was it, maybe it was always easier for you? I don't know. It sounds like this is kind of a natural thing for you based on how you were raised, but I'm sure there might be some areas in all the things you've experienced
No way.
where
Yeah.
maybe you were tested, like, and you were like, OMG, like,
Yeah. So like, to tie this together, when we're doing something that someone's never done before, like rappelling over an edge and they're looking down like 70 feet or 50 feet. We were like maybe 45 or 50 feet up in the air, you and me, and you're peering over this edge, like walking the plank, but instead of water underneath, the ground. So there's that threshold that is more painful than once you've already passed through it. But I'm not pushing you through it. Like I like to walk the people right up to that threshold. I was asking you to put your toes over the edge of the wood. You could hold on to something with all your might, but I just needed your toes over the wood and just to break that threshold, because you need to realize staying there and not going through that was ultimately the uncomfortable part. As soon as you committed and went through, everybody, and that's the same thing for me. I've had parts of my life where I'm like, I feel like I want to go through this threshold, but I'm following like my adult responsibility of I have this job and people are relying on me, or I have bills, or I have people, any of these things that I'm just, if I go to school for 12 years and then college, I'm rewarded with getting to go to a job for 40 hours a week for the rest of my life. Like that's the prize that you get at the end of that. But I was still like accepting and being, okay, this is what adults do. I'm going to do this for X number of years. Unless some breakthrough happens, I'm going to just follow this due diligence path. But when I realized I was like, this isn't for me, or I don't want to continue doing this, I stayed in that uncomfortable threshold, in that, like, I call it sitting in the soup, when someone's right on the edge there and they're like, oh, this feels terrible. And I was like, we're just going to sit right in this hot soup for a little bit. And we're just going to get a little more familiar with what this feeling is. When you're going through some shit, you're going to feel this exact same feeling. It doesn't matter if your toes are hanging over the edge of a platform, or if you're about to walk into a room of people you've never met before, or re-meet somebody that you've not had such a good interaction with and you're ready to make amends, or you don't know what you're going to say. It's worse before you walk in the room. As soon as you guys start talking, it's all good. So we like to kind of sit in the soup and be uncomfortable with it. I remember when I finally quit that job, I talk about support a lot. Support isn't you have somebody paying your bills for you and shoveling your driveway and taking the garbage out. Support is knowing if you can't do those things, you have someone who'll do it for you. So I always tell people when we're spotting and we're making sure no one falls, I'm like, yeah, we're making sure they don't fall, but really we're letting them know if they do fall, we're going to catch them. They can go further because they have our support. So the big thing is I called my mom, I called my two bosses, and I was like, I'm going to quit this job. I need more hours or something. They're like, no, we can't do it. I called my other one, like, can I have my old job back? They said, no. I was like, oh, I guess I got to call my mom on the third call. I'm like, Mom, I'm not happy. I need to quit this job. She goes, wait, just go home tonight, have a good rest, wait maybe a week or two, and you're going to feel better. And I was like, I don't want to feel better in this moment. I'm telling you. And she goes, oh, I didn't realize it was that kind of conversation. If that's the case, no matter what, we support you. We got your back. Do what you need to do. And that gave me the freedom to just be able to like wipe my desk clean, get in the car, and the euphoria of being free of that. And then the fear and opportunity of the future is like, you have endless opportunity. So that was a support system. That was like a big letting go. But as soon as I knew somebody had my back, I could go that much further.
Yes.
I did the same, where I was like, trust in me, trust in the system. Nothing's promised. Of course, I get in that car. I don't know if I'm going to get a new job. Nothing is promised, but I'm willing to like accept whatever's going to come down the line. I'll figure out.
I love that. I love what you said. I think that's so profound. So that's why I have to point it out, is when you said, no, Mom, I'm not going to feel better, or I don't want, like,
I would have felt better in 2 weeks, and I didn't want to.
Yes, I know.
I would have felt better.
I know. And that's the moment of, like, there have been times in my life where I'm like, okay, I can meditate this out. I can clear it. I can go for a run. And I'm like, no, I'm not. No, I'm not. I'm sitting with it. Like you said, I love it. Sitting in the soup. And I'm like, Stephanie, you need to feel your feelings. You need to feel all of it, because it's easy sometimes, right? And some of us have unhealthy escapes, right? And I used to have those too, but I really wanted to deal with it. And I think when people are really ready and they're kind of at that point where they're wanting something different for their life, that it's kind of terrifying and exciting at the same time. And I think sometimes the energy and the emotion, it's almost like we don't have words, but we know, like, somewhere deep in our soul, we know that it's time to go.
Yeah.
It's time to move on.
Instinct, you just know. Yeah. And then we'll elaborate, put it to words. Be like, listen, I don't need to put it to words. I know how I feel. Like this, no words need to be spoken when you really feel and
Yes. Good for you.
Follow intuition. That's a big thing. I try to tell adults that they will turn, because their heart's led that way and run off the trail or across the street or into the store because they're just being led by intuition, by their heart. But adults are like, better stay on this path I'm on. And I'm like, if
Yes.
your heart is inclined to turn right or left, you need to turn right or left. At least
Yes.
investigate why you're inclined to go that way.
Yes.
Like that instinct.
I love it. And surrounding yourself with positive people, and you're blessed. It sounds like you have several people in your life and have had that are supportive of you. And I think that's another thing for listeners that maybe don't have people in their life or parents that are supportive like that when they want to, to be able to and I hope that by us talking about this, it's giving them the courage and also that they know there's two other people on the planet that support them, which is really the whole point of this podcast is to elevate thinking and consciousness and help build this kind of community of support, no matter what it is. And maybe it's going to be a different path for what you do or what I do, but it's their dream and it's their vision of doing whatever it is they want to do. So I think it's valuable. So anything else that you want to share with us before we wrap it up about your experiences, any learnings or what you're excited about that's to come?
I feel like I alluded to in the beginning that like I don't know how I got here. Like I got here all by accident, but I was still like making conscious choices. I was still judging and weighing, and some choices probably slowed down my progress, or is there progress? But I feel like I was just very blessed to be able to like have the freedom to make mistakes and make choices. And then I met people along the way that I could have met people and gotten in with the wrong crowd. But when I would find somebody in my life that I wanted to spend time with, I I made a hard decision. Like I just started the relationship type of thing. You know what I mean?
Yes.
Even like meeting my wife, I had moved to a new town. I was looking to make new friends in that town. She was one of the first friends I made, one of the first nights. And like, I didn't make another friend the rest of the summer. It was like, I found my friend here. And like, now we're 10 years later and we're still like, we're building these little tiny houses too, and we're living with our tiny little kids and doing the whole thing. I would like to put a shout out and a thank you to my mentors through the year, because when I first got to college, I was recruited for track. The coach met me in the lobby, shaking my hand, shaking my parents' hand and saying, let's go over to admissions and let's see if we can get you into this university. I was like, I actually already got accepted, so I'd like to just look around, and he's like, oh, you're already in, then let's go to the dining hall. We went and had, I'll never forget, we had, grilled cheese and tomato soup. He showed me the gyms. We met like the library. We walked everywhere. We had like a whole afternoon together drinking chocolate milk. And every room that we would enter, if it was like the janitor or the librarian, or we were at the food place, he's talking to the ladies behind the line. He knew everybody by first name. He was thanking them. He was making a personal connection with everybody in the community, through the entire campus. And I knew he wasn't doing it to show off for me. I knew it was because he knew the guy's name and he knew the lady's name. And I immediately realized, I was like, I want to work for this guy. I want to fight for this guy's team. So we had seen other colleges. It was over a 4-hour drive to go to look at this college. And on the way home, we're in the car. My parents they don't know how to ask, like, well, what did you think? Or should we, I don't. And I was like, that's it. This is the place I want to go. That's the person I want to fight for. And I didn't realize it, but, over the next 4 years, competing with him and competing under him, he shaped me and hundreds of different athletes. And we've all gone on to coaching, and we've all gone on to, be spreading his love. And really, like, he just would show up with inspirational quotes. He would devote his time to us. He'd buy us pizza and t-shirts, and he would just show us love. He would make such a supporting environment for everybody, regardless of skill or any attributes. And he really changed my life. And so now when I meet these people, that was Dave Stevens, and he's changed my life and hundreds of people's lives. When I meet the next people in my life, like Dave Childs, one of my best friends, Zeke now, Luke Bloom, one of my bosses, I meet these people and I realize, like, this is someone I need to be involved with, because we can kind of raise the whole game and level it up together.
I love
I didn't recognize it when I was a kid. And I'm super grateful of those guys now. And I recognize it now. And I really owe a lot of it to all of them.
Wonderful. Well, it sounds like in your world now, at least I know in my interaction with you and I know with your children, you're doing it. And that's a gift. And what's beautiful is that you're teaching your children, right? You're teaching your children how to live this life and what's important, and what a legacy.
Yeah.
What a gift.
I was always taught, like, if you can be half the man your father is, you're going to be adding to this world. So yeah, that's what we're trying to do. We're trying to create 2 little humans.
You're doing it.
A little better than the humans that we're, working them.
That's
So
amazing. So I know that, excuse me, you are not into necessarily self-promotion, but I do think you have a lot of valuable, uh, wisdom. If people want to ask you questions, are you open to that about even if it's about how you live in a tiny house or
yeah,
something about is
of
there a
course.
way that people can contact you? Are you open to that? Are you,
No, yeah, of course.
I know I have more questions about your tiny house and I'd love for you to give everybody a tour before we close, if you don't mind, but I definitely have a lot of questions.
If you want to reach me, you can reach me at jken0606 you can follow me on Instagram at Mr. Fit JC, and you can check out my wife's pottery on cjkclay.com, and she is Cassandra Kennedy, and she makes all the.
Show us. Yeah, perfect time to give us a tour.
Yeah, if anybody is on the video.
Love it.
This is our tiny house. We have our bookshelf that supports our whole king size bed loft up there. We're actually standing in our kitchen. So
It's
this
beautiful.
is our kitchen. We've got our stove, keeping the house warm in the corner there. Me and Cassie put that together, all the stones in that fireplace.
It's amazing.
And then this is we have a sleeping dog.
Hi.
And of course we have this beautiful pottery studio out here.
Oh,
Make some magic happen.
it's amazing. And show us the view of that beautiful outside, if you can, of
this is what we
see.
look out to. We got a little hockey pond. We got snow falling currently.
It's gorgeous. Oh, look at that. We could see the snowflakes. It's calming looking at that.
We purposefully, if you live in a tiny house, you can't spend too much time in the house. You got to get out.
Yeah. That's very inspiring. Well, I want to thank you.
Of course, if you're visiting Miraval Resorts in Berkshires,
yes,
one of the outdoor guides, and we can do hiking, biking, rock climbing, stand-up.
Yes, walk to the edge.
Over there. Yeah, and
walk to the edge.
You didn't even talk about your experience of your big leap.
I know. I wanted this to be about you.
Well, that was nice of you, but
yeah.
You should tell that story then. Use that, and I don't know. You'll find a place to plug it in.
I am going to talk about that story, but it's kind of nice that we sprinkled a little bit in this episode.
Yeah. All right, cool. Teasers.
Yeah, little teasers, but I really wanted people to hear from you and to listen and to get the sense of who you are, because it is very inspiring. And as I said, I think there's a lot of people that are looking to elevate their thinking, to plug into positive, supportive people. And you're one of them. So I appreciate your partnership, your willingness to be here today, to share your beautiful home. And I look forward to the journey ahead and the continued adventure.
Yeah, we'll keep connected, and we'll keep leveling everything else up, because
yes,
we'll boost each other up.
So Thank you.
You're spreading the word, and I reach people in person, and I know you do as well, but you're probably reaching a lot more than me, because this interwebs piece. I know. So I appreciate you. Just keep spreading the love.
Thanks, James.
See you, Steph.